Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of Popcorn Podcast with Leigh and Tim, where we are delighted to share with you our interview with the instantly recognisable voice actor, TV film star, Patrick Warburton. I'm Timmy Fland, movie buff.
And I'm Leigh Livingstone, entertainment journalist.
And we love to talk all things movies.
We do, and we're going to talk to Patrick Warburton. But first, Metro Comic Con brings some of the most exciting names in pop culture to Australia for a weekend filled with exclusive panels, artist showcases, collectibles, and cosplay fun. This year, Guardian of the Galaxy Pom Clementif, Superman Brandon Routh, Family Guy Patrick Warburton, voiceover legend Bill Farmer and Bridgerton bad girl Jessica Madsen are in town, along with many others, to meet fans and take them behind the scenes of some of their favourite films, comics, animations and TV series. How exciting.
Sign me up. We have a few friends that are going to be there, so have a great time, guys. We can't wait to hear all about it. Well, look, you know his name, you know his face, and you definitely know his voice. Patrick Warburton has been entertaining us on screen and behind the microphone for 40 years in hit shows including Seinfeld, Rules of Engagement, and Family Guy, and movies such as The Emperor's New Groove, Hoodwinked, The Dish, and Ted.
Oh, and so many more. But whether you know him as the annoying neighbour and cop Joe Swanson from Family Guy or Puddy, Elaine's on and off again boyfriend in Seinfeld, such a hilarious character. Yeah. His deep and distinctive voice and often deadpan delivery is instantly recognisable and absolutely hilarious.
Always in stitches.
Yeah.
Although he went to a convention dressed as the Tick in Ted 2, the cult classic superhero he briefly played in 9 episodes in 2001, Warburton doesn't often get along to Comic Cons. So it's super exciting that he's down under once again to meet and greet fans at Metro Comic Con in Melbourne.
And he's dropping by Popcorn Podcast to chat about his time in Australia, hanging out with Sam Neill and his The Dish co-stars. He also shares why he loves working with Seth Macfarlane so much, why he can't say no to him, how he found the voice for henchman Kronk and his other characters, and also reveals how Harvey Weinstein, that dick, got in the way of a big payday. Let's take a listen.
What were you doing the night of March 8th?
Fucking your mother.
Come on, man, that's not cool.
Oh, yeah? Maybe this is cool enough for you.
You must be one of the busiest guys in the business, Patrick. You've been able to build this incredibly varied acting career that straddles both voice work and on-screen and TV and film. Which is more fun for you and why?
You know, the different mediums present their different challenges, and some of them are, great experiences. Like I was telling you about earlier, one of the best experiences I ever had was being here in Melbourne back in '99 shooting The Dish.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing team, and the legendary Sam Neill and all the other wonderful actors and the Working Dog folks. And,
such a great film.
Yeah, it's really special to get to be a part of that. Animation's fun because you don't spend that much time, when you're lending your voice, and you get to see something that's the culmination of the work of so many artists. Then you see it all come together. You use your imagination, because usually when you're, especially if you're doing a Disney movie like The Emperor's New Groove or something like that, you're isolated. You're in a booth by yourself. You're not working with anybody else. You have to get creative that way with your voice. Of course, animation, everything's always bigger than life. They're very different. They could both be very, rewarding. But when you have an opportunity to work with, a team like I got to on The Dish, or when I have an opportunity to work with a Barry Sonnenfeld. I say a Barry Sonnenfeld. There's only one Barry Sonnenfeld, but I've had the good fortune of getting to work with him on a number of projects. The first one was The Tick that we did.
Yes.
And then we did a movie called Big Trouble. I worked with him a little bit on Men in Black 2. But one of the most special projects I got to work with Barry on was a series of unfortunate events. Netflix series, yeah.
So Joe Swanson, I guess, would be your longest running voice gig by far, or probably gig in general.
It is, yeah. It's been going on for 23 or 24 years. So it's great to get to work with, a genius like Seth Macfarlane and get to, join that team very early on. It's
criminal for someone to be that talented. I'm a big fan of Seth's work.
Yes, I'm lucky to be on the show. He voices most of the other characters. So I'm just glad that he decided not to voice Joe and let me do that early on.
Yeah. I have to ask, though, what does Seth MacFarlane have on you that anytime he calls, you have to say yes?
Well, simply, first off, when Seth calls, you count your blessings. You're like, you want to be a part of it. When he did the Ted movies, that was so much fun to be a part of those films. Seth calls, I come a running.
You do sometimes get typecast voicing these burly, authoritative sort of characters. How challenging does it get to make them all different, especially when you're just using your voice and you don't have costume and physical performance to fall back on?
Right. Well, there are voiceover artists who are chameleons and they just do all kinds of, different things. And I guess there's something sort of, signature with my voice. And that's when it's like, what sort of, what's at the core of, a character's, like Kronk was sort of a reticent henchman, right? So he was, sort of sweet. Now Kronk, he could have been darker, he could have been like, well, it's a shame that we're not going to have dessert. I worked so hard on it. And, potentially that could have worked. I just made it sound a little bit sweeter like this and brought the voice down here. And it's like, oh, I worked so hard on dessert. No, the poison for Cusco, that poison. So it's just a little bit clueless, a little bit silly, a little bit sweeter that way. Now, Joe doesn't sound entirely different from Kronk, but Joe's a bit more officious, because Joe's a cop, and, sometimes a bad cop. So you can tell that the same guy is voicing Joe or Kronk, but I still see them as, there is a little bit of a difference, but not a chameleon. People always know, like, oh, it's that guy doing that voice.
You're still a chameleon. You're still a chameleon. At this stage in your life and your career, what roles and projects are you feeling more drawn to?
I just did a film called The Duel, which was this little film we did 3 years ago, and Grindstone picked it up, and then Lionsgate grabbed it from Grindstone. So they bumped it up from an indie to a theatrical release. So it's going to be in theaters on July 31st. That was a really cool opportunity. I'm always looking for, different things to, even from, the early days. There was a little talk early on. I know that we did Seinfeld. Would you have any interest in doing like a Puddy spinoff? And I, at that point I said, absolutely not, because you have to get out and reinvent and do different things. Look, I did 9 episodes of a sitcom and was in danger of getting typecast because that's the way they see things in the business.
Yeah.
One of the things I so appreciated always, about Rob Sitch and Jane Kane, the Working Dog folks, when they offered the dish to me, they only knew me from Seinfeld. And I said to Rob, I go, you know me from Seinfeld. I go, I think my guy, Alan, the dish, he's probably the least funny character in this film. NASA scientist, pretty stern. I go, what made you think of me? He goes, I reckon you could do it. And I'm like, well, thank you. Thank you. Because in LA, in an industry where there's, it's supposed to be creative, they're so big on just typecasting, or they just see you as doing one thing. So I really appreciate that. While I was here, I also got to stay with Sam at his place when we had a break in Double Bay in Sydney. We had a lovely time. We're having barbecues and hanging out with the likes of Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, Tim Finn from Crowded House was there, Brian Brown, Rachel Ward. I got to know Jeffrey Rush well. My wife and I and our kids went over to his home just with him and his wife, for brunch one day. I just thought to myself, in Los Angeles, I'm not allowed to hang out with these people. You're in you're a TV actor, you're this or that,
Yeah.
And in Australia, just everything here is just so chill, and there's no pretense, and everybody's friends, and it's I just got to know some really cool people here. So grounded, down to earth. I love it down here. I remember thinking after that, if I had to extradite my family from States, a lot of people think, what's immediate? Well, there's Canada right there. And I was like, no way, Australia. And I know it's hard to get into Australia, but they're fans of Seinfeld. And of course, the dish. I go, maybe we have it. We have it in, I think.
Yeah. You're absolutely in. So you're down here, obviously, for Metro Comic Con, and conventions are just a great place for you to connect with your fans. Are you able to attend many of these kind of events?
I don't do a lot of them. I just started doing a few. I don't think I did one until about 7 years ago, but this year I'm doing more than I ever have. I'm doing like 8 or 9 of them. Most of them are somewhere in the States, but I just looked at Metro Comic Con as a great excuse to come back down here, come back to Melbourne, and to just spend some time here. It's a special place for me, and the people are special.
What do you find that people approach you about the most?
Family Guy, Seinfeld, probably the most. during certain periods, it was a series of unfortunate events. And they were releasing that on Netflix because Netflix has such a wide reach. There are different fans there are a lot of really diehard fans of the show Rules of Engagement I did with David Spade. We did like 7 seasons. That was a really fun one. And then there are those that like the cult stuff. I mean, The Tick we did 9 episodes of, but it seems to have had a cult following for years. Oh, Kronk, The Emperor's New Groove. I'm a Disney file, and there are those that just, love Disney, and that's had, an amazing life itself. Yeah.
It's funny, just before I jumped online, I have a 1-year-old and I just put the TV on to sort of keep her occupied for a second while I got prepared. And Hoodwinked was on. Yeah. I was like, there you are again.
Hoodwinked was really fun to be a part of. When it was pitched to me, it was an independent animated feature. At that point, there had never been an independent animated feature that got a large theatrical release in history. As I remember having a deal, I'm like, well, this looks really fun. It's very clever. It's a Little Red Riding Hood, but the wolf is an investigative reporter who thinks he's Fletch. They had me right there. Yeah. I go, well, listen, if I'm going to do this and we're getting paid scale, which is nothing, I have to have a deal where if this movie becomes a success, then, you get some back end. So I had that deal. The Weinstein Company saw it at the Berlin Film Festival, acquired it, and it did very well when you look at domestic, worldwide, and DVDs. And I didn't get a cent because Harvey Weinstein just said, sue me. So I'm happy that he's where he is right now. I'm not as happy as some people are, but obviously, but yes.
How frustrating.
Yeah.
You mentioned The Tick earlier, and it has such a passionate fan base, as you said. Would you ever, or have you ever, turn up to a convention dressed in the Tick costume like you did in Ted 2?
Well, I haven't. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. I did this Adult Swim cartoon called The Venture Brothers. Yeah. And so one time I went to the San Diego Comic-Con with my son Shane, and we both dressed up as Shore Leave. Shore Leave is a very, very, very dangerous, very flamboyant superhero. Yeah, it's got like a cut-off shirt tied with a bow here, the mustache like this, and we both walked around like that and had a blast.
That would have been incredible. Well, before I let you go, what's on the horizon for Mr. Warburton next?
I'm supposed to be doing a horror comedy film. That's what I grew this dumb mustache for. And so they're putting the last pieces of that together. And but there's some interesting people involved with that. They've done the Blair Witch film years ago. I like horror comedies. I think they can be really clever and funny. Yeah. And this one appealed to me.
They go hand in hand, don't they? Horror and comedy.
Sure. Yeah, lean into it. But I'm very excited about The Duel, which is a film I did 3 years ago, an independent film. And July 31st, it'll be on 500 screens in the United States. But from what I know, it's being released here in Australia too. Yeah. I believe so. It's The Duel. It's a good little film. People, I think, will enjoy that.
Can't wait to see it. Thanks so much for your time today, Patrick. Hope the rest of the day goes well and the weekend. I'm up in Sydney, so I won't get down there, unfortunately, but I would have loved to have met you in person.
And you, Leigh. So enjoy your time and the better climate right now where you
are. Definitely. You should have brought some sunshine with you.
Yeah. I tried.
Okay. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, Leigh.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Why do we even have that lever?
Hey, that was such a great chat.
Oh, thank you.
What a lovely man.
He's cool, isn't he? I'm such a big fan.
Was a wonderful look inside at his varied and successful career. I loved watching him, because I watched the video, and listening to him recounting his career and hearing all the amazing experiences he has had along the way too.
And he's quite candid in his chat
Super
too.
candid.
If you look at other interviews with him, he's happy just talking about all his experiences, good and bad, throughout the years working in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
And that mustache that he's sporting for an upcoming film is very strong, very impressive. So make sure you check out our video when we get it up on YouTube, because it's really cool.
It's almost like that character in, which Austin Powers film was it? And he had mole, mole, mole. I was just like, mustache, mustache, mustache. I couldn't stop staring at it.
It's a very manly mustache.
It is a very manly mustache. Look, we love how much he loves being in Australia too, and we truly hope he gets to spend more time down under. Patrick Warburton, you will always be welcome.
And I hope he comes back on the podcast too. You can experience Metro Comic Con 2024 from July 13 to 14 at Melbourne Showgrounds in Victoria.
Thank you, friends, for joining us for this special interview episode of Popcorn Podcast, where we sat down to speak to Patrick Warburton.
Oh, loved it.
Loved it. Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll catch you next time. If you enjoy our episodes, head over to Apple Podcasts and subscribe. While you're there, we would love you to rate us and leave a review. You can also find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Alexa, and where all good podcasts are found.